I would say like this, that the majority is certainly very well aware of these questions, and I think they follow them at a distance, and they are concerned. And they also have the possibility to go to the scientific literature and really read and understand some of these very complicated studies, and they realize that, hey, something is going on here. But then you have a small group, actually a very small group I would say, of scientists that say this is completely all right. There is no risk whatsoever. But the problem with that group is that very good journalists, digging reporters, and likewise have shown that they have their science based on industry-given money. So they have a support from this electronic industry, and that's not very good. And therefore I have for many, many years called for independent science, so that you can really trust the data that come out. And there are studies from other scientists that have clearly shown that results that wave a green flag, they are 3 to 4 times more commonly supported by the industry, whereas the ones that have a red flag saying, hey, there is an effect, there is a risk here, they are much more commonly independently based scientific experiments. And that reminds at least me of some of the historical scandals. One of the biggest is of course the tobacco scandal, and I do hope that our politicians, authorities, civil servants have learned their lesson. You cannot allow the industry in any question to influence the outcome of science, because then you will immediately deviate. It will look good. You can have a very good sort of hit mark, but it will be way off bullseye where you have the true knowledge. The Biolnitiative Report came as a result, I would say, from a meeting in Benevento in Italy, but also from other meetings and discussions. Already in 1994, I had discussed in Sweden the need to compile a completely independent and all-covering compilation of scientific data. And the meeting in Benevento in 2007 generated then the need for such a compilation, and it was finalized a little bit more than a year afterwards. And we got together and sort of split up the various areas. I got the piece of the cake being labeled effects on the immune system, and I thought it wasn't very many papers to be found. So I said, hey, I could also take another piece of the cake, namely electrohypersensitivity. And I was a little bit sorry for that, because it turned out that the first piece of cake, there were so many studies already published in the scientific literature that no one had paid any attention to. And so I had a full mouth, I would say, of that. And then I added also some knowledge regarding electrohypersensitivity. And that formed one of the chapters within the Biolnitiative Report, which is about approximately 600 pages and around 2,000 scientific references. And to be honest, we didn't understand what kind of impact it would have. We thought it would just be put away on some shelf in some archive, but it turned out wrong also that. The impact was tremendous and still is tremendous. It's very, very often referenced, and also to my big surprise, a lot of opposition has been generated trying to say that the scientists that wrote this, they are not true scientists, and they have done it wrongly, and they have just picked the cherries of the cake and so on. A lot of stupid mishmash. And that again tells you, hey, did we actually hit the red button here, Did we actually prove that this is very important to keep an eye on and study, and maybe to have some form of referendum and say that, hey, maybe we should not continue to expose people at such very high exposure levels. To summarize very shortly, you can say that when you expose the immune system to, for instance, microwaves from mobile telephony and likewise wireless systems, you initially get an activation of the immune system. It tries to sort of fight back this exposure as it would with any form of intrusion from a bacteria infection or whatever, you know. So you have an activation, but it's followed by a deterioration, a decrease, and it goes back to baseline and goes quite far below. So it seems a little bit like, you know, you have a castle, you have soldiers with firearms, and they are under attack, and initially they could cope with it, they could fight back, but after some time more and more of them get killed, and they are invaded by this foreign army. And the foreign army here is, of course, the microwave bombardment, and that will deteriorate the immune system. And the question is, will it ever be able to repair it? And from some studies there are indications that maybe there could be a truly damaging effect that could not easily be repaired. But again, here we need more studies. And the question is, while we do these studies, should we actually continue to expose the general public or not? I think we should not, based on the science.